Welcome everyone to Dynamic Character Productions episode 8 and 9 recap of Iriki Island, our third mini. And I have two great guests with me today. One, our lead editor, does basically everything. We got McKenna Feeney. McKenna, how are you doing?
Oh, I am apparently surrounded by motorcycles. Um, I am ready to dive into these two episodes. They were quick ones at it, let me tell you, but I'm happy to talk about them.
No, we all love a good quick episode sometimes. And with us as our special guest is the winner of our first long game, Exile Island. We got the great Alex Cousins, same name, so it has to be great. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm good, guys. It's great to be here. It was really great to have you guys back and ready for all these new episodes to come out. It was really fun watching, and I'm excited to discuss with you guys.
Yeah.
Yes, so we see two people go this week. Obviously, as we said, very quick episodes, and we'll get into why it was a quick episode, especially for the second one. But we'll start with the first. So I think I'm gonna go stir up trouble. That was a Bill quote, I want to say, right, McKenna?
Yeah, it was Bill. After he had just kind of been like on the wrong side of the votes with Tom leaving, he was like, I don't really have any alliances right now. Let's stir up some trouble. So
Well, we do hear Bill in this episode say like the game was boring until the episode 7 vote that sends out Tom. But really, we see a lot of the original Dak people talking about like a lot of people not understanding what happened. Like Celestine's the only person who stuck to the vote of Garrett. Everyone else just threw everything everywhere. So Celestine's just like, okay, I got free reign now. Like no one's gonna like. I don't believe anyone's coming after me. I'm the only one who stayed true to Dak. So you know what? Maybe this round, fuck Dak.
yeah. Very
And Alex,
possible.
Alex, you have experience here of during your season, you were left out of a vote at the merge. I want to say when Andrew goes out, and it sort of left you in that same similar spot of that free agent. And like, please tell us sort of like you could sink there, or it can become a very powerful spot.
It it can be good or bad depending on how you play it. Because I was in a very similar spot. I thought, well, my alliance, I felt, had turned on me by not telling me the vote. I felt I had permission then from that point on to target if I wanted to my alliance. But announcing yourself as a free agent is also dangerous because it just further removes you from the group, and it kind of like solidifies yourself as a possible easy vote. That's the person who that is it, especially in a scramble like this. That puts you in an easy spot to be for someone to be like, the last name heard is, oh well, she's not connected to anyone, we can take her out. So I think you gotta it's a fine spot to be in if you play your cards right and don't completely alienate yourself socially.
Right. And I love hearing that. And luckily, we see with Celestina this episode. Obviously, in the second one, she wins immunity, but really, you see her name pitched a little bit, but it seems now it's more like just like, oh, it's a decoy of, oh, she's nice.
Well,
So
she
she's
threw it out
desperate.
herself. She was like, you can tell Vinny it's me." And then when I heard that, I had to rewind back because you never want any reason for your name in someone's mouth. Like even if it's just a decoy and you know you're 100% safe. I was like yelling at my screen, "So you know why?"
Well, and she was already on the table. Like they were already throwing her name out without her needing to say that. I believe like that was the name they fed Vinny at one point. That's what Garrett and Jay told Vinny that the plan was, and there was most of the tribe in that group. So that's another thing you just try to avoid when
But
playing.
yeah, you
You
should
don't want
avoid it.
you don't want your name up there at all because
Yeah.
anything can happen.
Well, it seems like it's not backfiring on her at the moment because she
Mhm.
does leave through 9 episodes now. Obviously, she has immunity at in episode 9. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched, but you should watch. If you're watching this, please stop and watch episodes 8 and 9. Then you'll come back and you'll see all of our lovely faces still talking about these episodes. But so all these episodes, obviously, they don't go to tribal at all really during a pre-merge, but she's not getting a single vote cast against her. She's one of the few people I want to say at this point, it's only her and Brett that still have not have received a vote at a tribal council this season.
Mhm.
So that's something, and you see Brett talking about it in these episodes. That's something that he very much wants to keep. He wants to be able to say at the end that he has never received a vote against. So that's her story right now. We have Garrett, who's just like the renegade of this group currently. He's just like, I can't believe that worked. I thought I was going to be the only vote on Tom and I was going home. But you know what? I'm going to still mess around and say I have that idol. Let's see how long that this idol can last me in this game.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to have fun with it. He sees himself as like, I'm being placed in this spot of being so dangerous and I'm not used to being in this spot. So I'm going to roll with it. If I go out, I go out, but he's just going to keep pushing along. And you know what? He's actually like all these people are trying to label themselves as the underdog. He's actually the underdog of this season.
I see a lot of like Garrett and you actually, Alex, with how you were just constantly like, we could vote out Alex here. We could vote out Alex here, and just never went home, never went home, never went home. So if Garrett is playing the way you played, he's got a fake $1 million coming to him.
And it is kind of like it's the age-old question of like having, started off the merge with only two. It was really two Wodas against 7 Dak decks, and so you can, they did try to get Garrett out, but you can last a couple votes turning on each other, and you'll always have the majority. As you get closer and closer now, it's like, well, I mean, Garrett can go on an immunity run right now, and so sometimes, you do have to stop and be like, well, he is the easy vote, but it's the right vote too. Sometimes the easy vote is the right vote, and I don't know. I mean, we'll talk about the episode 9 vote in a bit, but I think that might have been that could cost some people the game. I think by tying that up.
Absolutely. I had a very similar reaction during that round, Alex. So, and we will get to that one. But yeah, we see Garrett's view. Now we have Brett, who's just like, you know what? I got what I wanted. Garrett may have not been listening to me exactly because I'm afraid of him like saying that I was active, but you know what? Result happened. Tom goes out. I got what I wanted. I liked Tom, but I knew he would win the game. But now he's like, okay, I got what I needed. Now we can come back, try to reform Dak of who's remaining, and let's go get Garrett. At least initially, that's what everyone's sort of like painting their mindset towards. Except JM, who JM's in their own world, I believe. So they vote JS to try to once again avoid a split vote in the event of a tie, or an actual idol being played. Loses an ally, but now they're saying it's the first time I felt in danger since I could have gone home in the first tribal, which I'm glad that they openly admitted now that they knew they were self-aware enough to know that they were going out, because there's a couple episodes where I was thinking, do they forget how close that they were and fully bought into the story of it was Bill that was going to go or it was Vinny that was going to go. So I'm glad that we got a self-awareness check here, but now we're just like, JM, where are you going?
Yeah, I mean, they survive these next 2 votes, which it could have been JM going here at Vinny's spot, but they somehow maneuvered out of it, or just they weren't ever going to be the target here because they were so close with Tom. I don't know if that was perceived in game that all right, we got Tom, now we go for the ally, then go down the line. But
well, it's what brings up an interesting point here is because we all play these games. We've all at least played a game. I feel, and a lot of people who watch this have played a game or want to play a game. When you're in a game, you're very much wrapped up in what a lot of people and myself like to call main character syndrome. You're seeing it as much as you want to see it through other people's lens, and it's so much harder in a mini. You can really only afford looking at it for your perspective. And in your perspective, you're feeling you're doing all these things. Like you're talking to a lot of people and you're talking very fast. JM for sure is talking very fast. I had to take some medicine after watching these episodes because, boy, it was just going through a trip. But in a good way. Like, I love the fact that JM is trying their best and like is playing hard for themselves to be a survivalist, and that you can respect from their game. Whether or not they I think there's some things that they think that they did that I don't necessarily think I saw while viewing it, but then again, I was only in confessional, so I can only get their perspectives. I wasn't in the scramble round, so from my preference step back was I feel like no one's really looking at JM, which could be a good thing, but it's also, you look at season 41, is it a Xander thing where they're letting them come along, but it's someone who they're not really seeing as a threat.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I think in your own eyes, you see your game as this massive, like, I'm this big threat. But, you know, I might not see what either of you do. So, like,
right.
I can perceive you guys as, I've got these moves over you. Meanwhile, like, underhanded, hey, I've got these moves to top yours. So like it's very hard to judge, and like you said, especially in a mini when you only have
right. And like, to go to our guests here, Alex, like, there was a lot of perception from other people, and you slowly realize like the perception, a lot of people were thinking like, oh, if Alex goes to the end, like the other person's winning. It's a, what did Alex do? But all it takes is those like few moments, especially at the end game, and then they have a very solid final tribal that turns votes. And like, so we could see that story happen with JM, who almost goes out at the beginning, survives, gets the people he needs out, or they need out, has a good final tribal. We have the winner of Iriki Island. It's all about timing.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's again, what makes the game so much fun is nothing is as easy as it seems. You know, maybe the perception is that Jay, you know, hasn't really been on the right side of the numbers or hasn't been playing the game as much, but that might not be what the jury thinks. And even if you think Jay's a threat or not, by everyone having this perception and you letting them go farther and farther, that's a spot that's taken from you eventually. And the thing with Jay's playing hard, you know, and Jay is always thinking a step ahead. And Jay, like, even though, you know, maybe not every decision is most strategically sound, like, Jay is playing the game. And so I think, and I, you know, we'll talk, I think this final five is extremely open. And I think a lot of it is going to come down to who performs best at final tribal. And so, you know, you let someone who can sit and take and talk about their game, and that might, again, cost you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned like the wide openness. This is like the first season where I was on production where really we got to this point. Normally, there's a certain stretch where I'm like, okay, this is the path for certain people, but it's really these certain people. I can see an avenue realistically for each and every one of the remaining five that we have going forward to win.
Absolutely.
And that's when these Survivor games are at its best. But in order to get there, you have to win challenges as well. So we got the next challenge at Final 7 of Pencil Pusher. So you have to stack a bunch of cups in the shape of an L, and on the short end of the L, the last cup is face up. You then have to put a bunch of cards to create like a moat, put a ping pong ball, use only a pencil to guide that ping pong ball into the cup. First person to do it wins. I know originally we were supposed to do multiple ping pong balls, but we got nervous of time length.
Oh, we got, I think it was supposed to be like 2 or 3 ping pong balls, but we were like, nope, it's 1 now, because we were way over our time because of the first 2 challenges. Those middle 2,
yeah. Well, you know, we don't have to get PTSD over those 2 challenges. I don't want to give the former contestants who are watching this back now PTSD again of those challenges, so we'll ignore those. But anyway, JS wins in a landslide. He's the only one who's even guiding the ball at that point. and no one else has even attempted yet before he finishes.
I was so shocked at how slow they were going, putting their cards and cups out. I was like, one card,
Yeah.
two guys.
It's one ball. You know, you might get lucky. Just throw them out there and then adjust. Like,
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
It's some people, yeah, it was just like I just saw a bunch of people moving extremely slow, or like maybe nerves got to them, but we're late in the game, anything can happen. But JS, cold as ice. Sometimes I felt like we had to check his pulse because it's so still. But JS gets that win, and we see him in confessionals like, I was like thinking about throwing it, but at this point, I now again, because his whole goal right now is let Garrett stay in front, let other people stay in front. No one's gonna think about me, especially if I'm not winning anything. But now he's at a point where he's thinking, I should have people with me now. Like, this is the first time where I feel Dak's not being strong anymore. I can possibly create something, so now it's okay to win. And that was actually such a fascinating confessional to listen to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he has his 4 that he wants of himself, Garrett, JM, and Celestina, and to try and pitch to JM being like, oh, we'll just duke it out 2v2 and see where it goes. And I think that was really smart to just like keep honing in on JM, because JM is at the bottom of Dak and try and appeal to Celestina's emotions to bring her over. And they had also been connecting on Dak 2.0. So I feel like that group of 4 could be a solid thing moving forward. But yeah. Episode 9.
Yeah, we see the next episode. It's very much not the case. But yeah, so we have that mindset. We don't know what the target is yet, but we know that. We then get some rounds where I love Bill and Garrett's dynamic in the scrambles and in tribal, where they're all just like, oh my god, what happened there? And then Bill's just like, I knew you were full of shit about that idol. And Garrett's still trying to save it. It's like, oh no, I do have it. I just decided might as well risk it again. And he just, I love that Garrett's just insistent on just maintaining it. Just keep maintaining. You just have to keep the lie going at this point. There's no turning back. You still have this Blue's Clues idol. Yep. But everyone else on Dak's like slowly coming to the senses of it. No, this is full of shit. But what do we do about it in the chance that it's real?
Yeah.
Oh man. But it's just so fun to watch those two, especially like Alex. You had a brief amount of time playing with Bill. How has it been watching Bill through this season?
I've loved every second, man. I mean, Bill, like I wrote down, like, I just hearing Bill keep saying like, this has been a really boring game. Like let's make this fun. Like, and I'm right there with you, Bill. Like I like that he's shaking things up. The vote for Tom was a little questionable, but I think what I really like about Bill is, like, again, it's like Bill and people are starting to see Bill as a threat or someone that they should be looking at to vote out, because you let Bill get to the end. I mean, I don't see. I mean, Bill. I think Bill could charm this jury easy. I really like Bill's style of play. He has such a good way with people. And what makes me so happy that he survived those few challenge snafus early on in the game. Right. He could get to this point, and we're seeing what where Bill's strengths lie. Just how he talks to people, how he finds allies, how he's able to escape tricky situations. He's a really good social player, and we're kind of seeing the full effects of that.
I feel like now watching this season of Eric, you're almost happy he went out on the on the wheel when he did, because you would have been in for a world of hurt if he had made it.
Oh yeah.
But what could have been, if he was the one who survived that wheel, we'll never know. But because of that, we get him here, and the ultimate wheel survivor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No pun intended there. But we now have JM talking in confessional at first, then with JS talking about how they see their endgame being them and Celestina, final 2. I got Celestina on lock because of their they're both patrons of the Specialist. I did not know anything about how connected they are. I still don't really know for sure
Yeah,
what their connection was. I
I
just know that they
don't.
were both patrons.
I think they just know of each other from comments and stuff. So the few specialist patrons on the season, one is Bill, but he's not insanely active in some comments. And then there's Steven, Celestina, and JM. And we kind of tried to split them up because Celestina is very active, Steven's very active. So we figured those are the most common names. We split them up, and then JM just happened to fall with Celestina, and they recognized, oh, I know that name. Let's roll with it.
And sometimes comfort is definitely a thing in these games. If you know someone, even if it's like you're tentative about them, it's still something where like, well, I have to do something with them, or else like then it'll become too obvious that they're like, well, why aren't you working with me? But what I thought was a blunder, not a blunder per se, because I think it was good for JM to say to JS, because JS is trying to create this group saying like, oh, I got Celestina. But it was, for me, it was the way that JM said it. It was like making it sound like Celestina wasn't really a player. It was like JM was like, I got her locked down. Like that, I got her. Like, what do you think of Celestina? I got her.
Yeah.
And you just see JS just like still like very stoic, and he's just like, oh, well, that's good. That works. That works for us.
It felt like a missed opportunity to officially cement something,
right?
You know, because if you are, you know, at least you know we didn't really hear a ton of what Celestina kind of thinks about JM, but if you're JM and assuming you have Celestina, you're kind of making this decision now. Am I going to go with basically stick with the Dak and go with Vinny and Brett, or am I going to, you know, cross with Jay and Garrett? And I think they both ways have their, you know, advantages, disadvantages. But I felt like in that moment, just to say how tight, you know, because if you're J, I mean, I really like how JS has been playing from the bottom. And I think if you're JS, you're looking for, you know, you don't just want to hang all your eggs on, I want to go to the end with Garrett. I think Jay was kind of looking for that, and to be like, maybe the two Jays, we can get at least promise me 3, you know, but I felt like JM was kind of more, because I think JM's got in their head a lot, and I think that just kind of can, because it's scary. I assume like this whole process is like totally insane. So I think maybe, you know, not thinking too far ahead and just being like, we're good, like not officially saying this is who I want to work with, might be, you know, might have been a missed opportunity.
Right. And like what we all have to remember is there's several hours in. These aren't the minis that are like split into 2 days. No, they started very like towards like early afternoon into the night. Like we're into the night at this point.
Yeah.
And you know what? It can get the best of anyone, especially people who aren't as game like experienced.
Yeah.
I'll use like they're not playing multiple games, so you don't understand the pace of the game yet. Like I feel like a JM on a second time out would have more of an idea of, okay, this is the pace of the game.
Right.
This is how I need to move. This is how I talk. This is like, it's like all those things that, because I know a lot of these players are like going back, watching this and like internalizing so much of, this is why I did wrong. This is why I need to do better. Or why are people perceiving me this way? This is how I want to be. So what do I need to do to get there? But you know what? Overall, at least for this round, it didn't matter that much, because we hear from basically all of them saying at one point or another in the confessions, like, yeah, I would like to work. Celestina's like, I want to work with the two J's and Garrett. JS says the same thing. JM says the same thing. Yeah. Garrett's like, I will work with anyone who keeps me here.
Yep.
But like, so you have that. You still have Brett and Bill now talking, saying like, this is the time we need that. Like, we've had our fun. We need to figure out how to get Garrett out. But then this all leads to the one person we haven't been talking about in this episode, and that's Vinny. And unfortunately, very bad timing. Vinny's internet or his Zoom was just like so bad. I pulled them into the confessional, and it was just like this frozen face. Couldn't hear them, couldn't see them. Eventually, they're like coming in and out. It was just so bad. So I felt so bad that this is how Vinny goes out, because they didn't have a fighting chance.
Right. There was just I don't even know who the vote was even going to be before any of that, but Celestina just goes, Vinny's internet sucks. And then they're like, yes, their internet does suck.
Which is like, unfortunately, in these games, is also a valid excuse to vote someone out, because you hear JS say it. I want to say it was JS who said it was, well, how can we play a game with someone that we can't even hear, and they can't hear us? We can't communicate. It's all sputtery. Like, how can that person be reliable?
Yep.
So it just makes sense to remove them. And then you also had the excuse that Celestina was pushing was, well, Vinny just keeps talking about all these games that he's played. Like they've played all these like thousands and thousands of games, and they win all these times, and they do well in these times. So it's the game now, everyone, and like we're not doing that strong this round, so let's eke them out.
Yep.
All you need is a reason.
Yeah.
Which leads us then into tribal. And really, but like, is there anything noteworthy about this tribal?
It was just Lauren trying to get a tribal out of, hey, Vinny's going home because of internet.
Yes.
Essentially.
Like, essentially, you just get the whole Garrett, you're being awfully quiet this round. And Garrett's still trying to push the idea of, well, I'm just playing my own this round, so the vote's going to go how it goes, and we'll see what happens next round. Spoiler, everyone, he didn't play his fake idol. We see a 6-1 vote. Vinny leaves. Third member of the jury, obviously for Vinny, very upsetting for them, because they don't feel their boot was just like justified game wise to go.
Yeah.
And they felt they were positioning themselves in a good way. And I will say, as final words for Vinny from my end, wasn't necessarily the game I was enjoying watching. It wasn't, but that's just my preference of a game. But I had to give them credit for being able to position themselves, because I do believe if their internet was working outside of Celestina, I don't believe there's going to be that many people that were going to be as willing to just throw Vinny out in that round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we heard from Vinny in their exit interview, which if you want to watch that, it's up on our channel. Vinny didn't really realize how bad of reads they had in the game. So they realize now that, oof, they were kind of dead in the water when they went out, but in-game felt that they were robbed because they had all these avenues to the end.
Right. And like, ultimately what I always think is, when people use the old school strategy of pagonging and just being you have to stay original tribe strong, when everyone's pitching that, for some players you need to take a step back and consider, why is that the case? Why is that everyone's so sure the best path is going tribe strong? Because if everyone's saying that, there has to be some doubt in your mind, like with James had the doubt in his mind and thinking, well, if we keep going, I'm going to be the one that's on the bottom. I'm the one who's going to be out. So I need to start creating something to protect me. And I felt, and I would say it in confessionals, because I'm not trying to, when I give questions, I'm not trying to dictate game, but I try to expand the players' minds on what's going on. So I give them questions that show different avenues. And whenever I would give Vinny questions that could lead into them trying to think more abstractly about other options, they would just always come back to, but the safer move is to stay tribe strong. That's 2 steps forward. Then I'll figure it out, because at least I have the new deck, or the new WOTA of him, Brett, and James at that time. So it was just a very unwillingness to pivot from the path. And it's hard to do that when you're in the game. So I'm not going to give Vinny a hard time about that.
Yeah, I mean, they played their heart out, though they have played many orgs before. This was their first Survivor mini. So going into the unknown is also really hard too. So congrats to them. 7th isn't too shabby. Third juror, you made the merge.
You made the merger dateable, Vinny.
Exactly.
But yeah, Alex, any final thoughts for our third jury member, Vinny?
Yeah, I think after when I was on the recap the first time, I said I picked Vinny to win after 3 episodes.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
But
right.
I don't think that shouldn't count because I'll also blame Vinny's Zoom troubles for my wrong pick. So
Right.
okay. Yeah, I think yeah, it's interesting. What you said, Alex, about Vinny's unwillingness to, because at a certain point, this is the individual game, and just because just because they didn't start on the same tribe as you, just because they like are the people everyone's looking to get out, it doesn't necessarily even mean they're threats. At the end of the day, even if we're looking at this, isn't a situation where the first 4 or 5 members of the jury are all former WOTA members and are always going to vote for a WOTA. This is this is going to be a DAC heavy jury no matter what. So I think maybe a little more willingness to at least throw out options and not, because we saw Garrett Vinny was kind of the first one Garrett turned on, from DAC, and I think it's because Vinny, like you said, didn't really make that much of an attempt to even entertain conversations with them. So I think that might have doomed him in the end.
Absolutely. Which now we lay Vinny the rest in Ponderosa, hopefully getting a better internet connection for our final tribal. And we go on. We made top 6. It's episode 9, kind of a Looney Tune. Love the episode title. And we get that from Brett during his voting confessional. I love it. Talking about Garrett, obviously, because of all the hijinks Garrett has caused in the game, which, thank God Garrett was here creating some chaos for us and creating some good TV moments. But we're at tribal still, but we just immediately go into the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It's challenge Q&A, where we use questions that we had put in the application for the mini as the questions, multiple choice style for the most part. And whoever got the most points at the end of the questionnaire wins immunity, safe from tribal council, making it to top 5, baby. And it was pretty close for, I feel, most of the way up until the end when we finally get the JS and Celsia tied with 6 questions each.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what we don't see is that the jury is still here watching and seeing everybody answer these questions. So I kind of liked this challenge. It was my little brainchild. I like this challenge because it's you hopefully got to know some of your castmates throughout the day. You had time to talk with them. You do the whole who's your favorite survivor kind of deal, and those are the questions we have on the application. It's kind of more social awareness and who's your favorite survivor questions, where it's who do you think is a passenger and who do you think is a pilot kind of deal. So you can kind of, there might be some guessing involved, but it's educated guessing in my opinion.
It's sort of like the Fallen Comrades in a sense, a little bit. And
it is not at all like Fallen Comrades.
As someone who's played Fallen Comrades,
I got most of these ones right, for the record. I did good at that trivia.
I was gonna, you know what? Because you mentioned it, I will not throw shade to you for that one. But we get there. It's 6 each, and what I love about this is when you apply for these games, you need to have a keen eye about anything that production gives to you. Even as far as the application that you're filling out, you should be figuring out okay, why are they asking me these type of questions? These sort of don't seem like something that you would really need in order to make a decision on putting you on a cast or not.
Mm-hmm.
Keep note of it. You never know when stuff can be used and when you're going to need it. And being able to be socially aware and also just mentally adaptable to understand this is something that can be used, focus on what people are showing on the screens, everything. You have to have a keen eye, but you also need to listen. And that's why, once you know more about people, you can do very well on these types of challenges. And you know what? At the end of the day, Celestina does the best job. She wins the tiebreaker, and she wins her first immunity, safe at Tribal Council, making it to top 5, baby. And like, I don't know because it's so far back now. I don't recall whether or not if JS won there, if Celestina was actually an option, or if we were still going to get what we ultimately got at this tribal.
I want to say that we would have gotten the wheel spin no matter what. I don't think Celestina was an option here. I think they still wanted Garrett. I think they still would have wanted JS, but JS would have been immune. So I think they would have all gone on Garrett because of the way we went into no scramble round. I set a timer of 3 minutes. Have fun.
And it was no tribal council. Like, this scramble in an open forum in front of the jury is tribal. And like Alex, as a person who's played in a, like, obviously in a long form of this game, you had like a mini style round in your game, but never, I don't believe you had one where it was like this, where it's like right in front of everyone, you're doing a full round and it's quick, no tribal council. You're just talking openly in front of everyone and then voting.
Yeah, I love it, honestly, because like I was thinking in my head, like how would I go about playing this, and I think it gives people on, really, you should have the edge either way, right? If you're on the bottom, you have time to talk, but I feel like if you're the last person who's yelling at people being like, this is why you should get rid of this person, you can be very powerful within a span of only 3 minutes. It was really interesting to watch. I felt like they didn't use all the time they could.
And they started talking about food or something, back to Chipotle.
That was this cast.
That was this cast. I thought, again, I think for a lot of different people, there were a lot of missed opportunities within these 3 minutes. And I didn't expect the result. I did not. Three bill votes really shocked me, and obviously it was the wrong move for both Jays, and it cost one J, unfortunately.
Yeah, part of me is not like sure, because I feel like there's some perspectives on how they voted, which would then, like, if you do backwards logic, you would understand like, oh, they expected this outcome because of what happened in the previous round, so it should have went the Jays, Garrett, and Celestina all vote as a block. They all vote out Bill, because Bill and Brett are the ones that are supposedly in the minority. But we start, like, the only real points that we get here is we get Bill just like, okay, everyone,
Garrett's
we've had our like our past discussions, we've had our fun.
Yep.
And Garrett knows what he's saying, and he's like, you know what? It's okay, Bill. You've also played a good game. My vote's going for Bill. Everyone, since no one else is talking, I'm voting for Bill, and we'll see. And I just love how casual they both are. Once again, they're just like laughing about it. Bill's like, you know what? If we both survive this, let's see. Like, we can still talk and see what can happen.
Well, and the problem with Garrett's approach here is, Garrett says who he's voting for. Like, I'm voting Bill because Bill threw out my name. But what he doesn't do is tell anyone else why they should vote Bill. Like, that's what the time should be used for, And if Garrett is able, at this point, you're at 6, you're about to be at 5. There's, I think, nothing wrong with being like, look, Jay, Celestina, this is the 4 we've talked about. This is the 4 I want to work with, or whoever. Anyone should have been saying this. Let's put 4 on Bill right now. That's it. And even if, we, like, Brett knows now we're a 4, it doesn't matter. What can Brett do at the next round? Like, there's, this is the time to be forthcoming. It's the time to make the stand. And for both sides, like, all you needed was one more vote to flip. It worked out for both of them because neither of them had to be on the wheel, but they didn't get their intended targets out. It was just a whole mess. Again, a couple missed opportunities here.
Yes, we ultimately see what you said, because people being cagey, there's a big quote of, when you don't actively play the game, when you're not the one talking, the game happens around you. and like more so, it's just more unknowns can be created because of the fact you're not being decisive. And at this point in the game, it's when you can't afford to be cagey anymore. Like you need to say something. And because people were so cagey, people went to that vote just going like, I'm gonna vote how I want to vote. And so we see Brett and Bill put their votes on Garrett. Celestina ultimately decides, you know what, Bill's right. It's time to take out Garrett. Like, Garrett, you're a hell of a player. You need to go. We see both original Woda vote Bill. I think JS was even like, even if it's a minority vote, like people still aren't gonna like be mad at JS for voting with Garrett
Yeah.
because it makes sense.
Yeah.
But ultimately we see JM and JM's logic, in a sense, like mad scientist wise, does make sense
Yep.
because he's creating these pairs of, well, I could go into a situation if Bill leaves because Bill doesn't really have a pair anymore in the game. Even though I don't know how much people really saw the Bill Tom dynamic, or especially Jay. I go in Final Five with JS and Garrett on one end, and I have Brett and Celestina as original Dak on the other. Then I can actively choose which side I can go on. And in theory, that makes sense. The way to make that work is you have to say during the live round, Celestina, we need to vote Bill. Just, you have to trust me, or, like, ultimately I'll respect what you do, but we need to put, my vote is for Bill as well. And just make it known.
If he put Celestina and Brett in a pair, we know where Brett is voting, and Brett is voting for Garrett. So you have to like make sure you have Celestina, because I think that pair of Brett and Celestina is going very underestimated throughout this game.
Yep. And so we get that 3-3 tie. Celestina, Bill, and Garrett all safe from the wheel. So it's J squared and
Brett.
Yeah, and Brett on the wheel. And you just see it go, you see it through JM, but it's still moving fast. And it lands squarely on JS. JS, who's been playing a great game for this point, a true survival game.
Yeah.
Playing that under the radar game that I was actually a lot of us on production were commending the hell out of, because it was just one of those things where like we didn't know what to expect out of JS coming into the season. And he very much impressed a lot of us. Ultimately, he goes as fourth juror here, but I was very happy with his game, and I was glad that he had a fun time while doing it.
Yeah, JS is a hell of a player. I'd love to see him back again, and he joins the ranks of people who've been rocked out.
That list grows more and more every season.
Each season, at least one will add.
We will see what's to come in future seasons. But ultimately, that wraps up the 2 episodes, which leads to our final segment, and that's MVPs for episodes 8 and 9. Each of us will be doing it because I'm involved this season. Who doesn't like being involved? And so we will start this out with the person who I know has been struggling with this the most, and we'll start with McKenna.
Okay. So this entire time I've just been thinking about who I want to give my MVP to, and then all of a sudden it dawned on me. They were pretty much the catalyst of the Vinny vote and won immunity in the second one. Celestina, my MVP for these 2 episodes.
That's a very good pick. And I love it. And I'm just going to bounce and do mine right now. Mine was also going into, after I finished episode 9, I took a second to really think about it. And mine is also Celestina for the same reasons. I feel these episodes, she had a little bit more say over what was going on instead of just being a passenger. She actively voted how she wanted to vote. She didn't vote just because of what other people were dictating her to. Still hasn't had a vote cast against her, wins an immunity. She's building up a little bit of a resume now. So that leads you, winner Alex Cousins.
This is really tough. Oof. You know what? I'm gonna show my biases, and I'm gonna give it to my man Bill because I
Yes.
think after losing Tom and being kind of really being like the odd man out in the final seven with three pairs, that doesn't make it's Bill. Bill doesn't make himself a target. Bill's in the majority to vote Vinny out, and then I think even though I wish he would have fought a little harder to get to flip JM back over to Bill Garrett. I still think by being one of the only two people to really talk game during that 3 minutes in front of the jury, I think Bill comes out looking really well. And I mean, in my eyes, Bill might be the decision maker moving forward. I think Bill's put himself into a spot where, I don't know where Brett goes. Is Brett automatically with Celestina and Jay? I don't know. But I feel like, I don't think I think Bill might have the easiest path to get to the end. So I think he's set himself up the best, and he's put himself in a good spot to already have some good jury support already.
Well, I loved getting the Bill love because this is, believe it or not, Bill's first MVP point of the season.
Hogwash.
So
should have
Bill. So Bill is now tied with Tom, Steven, and Vinny with one MVP point. From there, we have JS, Brett, James, and Celestina with 2 MVP points. And in first place for the season, still with 3 MVP points, we got Garrett, the Blues Clues idol Looney Tune. But with that wraps up this week's coverage of Iriki Island.
Before you wrap up, Alex, I'm going to make Alex Cousins promote the long game because he played in a long game, and we're currently casting for our second long game, Survivor Monte Carlo. How much fun did you have in Exile Island, Alex?
I had a blast. Winning the $1 million, if not 90-ish. And yeah, it's getting lonely at the top. I need a winner buddy up with me. That was my first experience doing anything kind of in the Survivor community besides just watching the show. And I couldn't have asked for it to be any better of an experience. Just playing with such fans of the game, meeting a lot of great new people that I still talk to a lot nowadays. And this is a really great production company that puts so much effort into the games. And if you sign up for it, you will have a hell of a time. So I highly encourage everyone out there to sign up for Survivor Monte Carlo. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Monte Carlo.
Like 10 times the rock draws then for going.
Exactly.
Yeah, sign up, apply.
The link is in the description. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah. So yeah, please apply for Survivor Monte Carlo. We're very dedicated to our games, and we try to make them the best products that we possibly can. If you apply, you will have a fun time. I can guarantee that. And you know what? We're gonna have more content pushing. We still have to conclude this season. We have another mini in the books, in the can already. And if you don't want to miss anything, if you haven't subscribed, press subscribe right now. Like, come on, what are you doing? You guys, press subscribe, press that like button, and press that bell for all notifications so you know when we put out new content, and you can watch it immediately. And if you want to be more involved and know what's going on, see some takeovers, what have you, follow us on Instagram, join our Facebook page, Dynamic Character Productions. You will have all you have to do is sign up, and one of us in production will accept you into that Facebook group, or you can ask questions for the exit interviews and also just be involved during the season. All social media handles will be posted at the end of this video. But with that, Alex Cousins, thank you. McKenna, Master Editor, thank you. I'm your host, Alex Trias, and we will be back next time.